What is going on, everyone? Today is May 7th, 2024. You're tuned into the Invest in Hockey podcast. Today's episode 26. We're ready to fire out of the gate. My name's Anthony Santini. I'm joined here with,
Eric Wilson.
and today we are talking NHL playoffs. What's been a crazy round one. And dude, we're dialed for round two. We already saw some action yesterday. We saw Florida losing to Boston 5-1. Obviously, pretty happy with that being two Bruins fans. But topic of the day that we kind of just want to fire out of the gate, and man, we're running today. We're dialed.
Oh
It's
yeah.
a beautiful day out. I'm back from Mexico feeling good. And we want to talk Canucks Oilers, one of the biggest series coming into the second round, maybe just behind the Dallas Stars and the Colorado Avalanche, but a big topic of discussion. And man, to pretty much just bluntly say it, dude, I think the Canucks really have a chance here against these Oilers.
I 100% agree, and I'm so happy you just fired that out of the gates, so our viewers didn't have to kind of not to wait that long. But I think the Canucks will beat the Oilers. I don't think I've had that prediction for a couple weeks now. It's in my bracket. I still believe it, and I think that it's so nice seeing an underdog have a chance, and I think it's a great topic for today just because we've really been all over the Leafs, the Bruins, a lot of original six teams, but the Canucks have been one where we haven't really had a pod and around that positivity there. So
Yeah, a lot of finally getting to see some Canadian teams really get some action in the playoffs. We got the Oilers, we got the Canucks left, and then obviously the Jets, the Leafs are both gone, which sucks. Not to watch Leafs hockey. I know it's been great. We don't want to talk about them too much, but the vibe around the city, the buzz is always nice whenever the Leafs are in the playoffs. Same result as always. I guess we'll see what changes they make in the offseason. But sticking to our main topic of interest, man, Pedersen's not playing his best. Quinn Hughes is not playing his best. Seems like he's hurt, is what I've heard. And they're missing their Vezina candidate goaltender. So you're going to tell me the Canucks are missing their best performance from their best forward, Pedersen, one of them, their best defenseman, Quinn Hughes,
yep.
and third, they're missing their best goaltender. How did this team even beat the Predators? And they're looking good heading into the first game that's going to be played tomorrow, Wednesday, against the Oilers, dude.
I know, and it feels so good having known that the Canucks did it without those guys, and not to say without those guys, but with a lot of leadership on that team. And I've talked about it for so long to you, to a lot of our buddies, and there wasn't a lot of agreement, but they have depth and they're a good team. It's not something to joke about when you mention guys like Dakota Joshua, Connor Garland. Just to name a few, even Carson Soucy, I think he looked great in that series. Like so much depth, and I love where the Canucks are headed, even in the future after this season.
Yeah, it kind of came to a surprise. I know we talked about it in the last podcast, but came to a surprise for some Vancouver Canucks fans and probably even the players too, just how well the season ended up shaping out for them. I know we talked about it and actually mentioned a little story that I heard. I don't know if I brought it up to you, but maybe we talked about it. But the
Yeah.
Vancouver Canucks staff were actually selling dates at this time during the playoffs for concerts. I don't know if we talked about it or
What?
if you remember
No,
me mentioning it.
I don't remember you saying that. No, no.
But looking back to last summer, it seemed like because obviously arenas have to sell the dates, they need to organize what's going to be happening at the arena when, and they pretty much planned. You know what? I guess Vancouver might not be in the playoffs this
Yeah.
late, whatever it might be. Let's get this arena filled with something else other than playoff hockey. Come
Yeah.
to a pleasant surprise. Looking at in May now, almost a full 8 months have gone by from that decision. Vancouver's still in the playoffs. Not only are they in the playoffs, but they're looking good heading into round two.
Yeah. I mean, it seems like we need some more confidence from the management and the planning team in Vancouver there, you know?
No, seriously.
That's a pretty fun, I like that story though. That's kind of you don't hear stuff like that every day. Even in I don't know, I feel like I haven't heard that for like a lot of places. Even in like Buffalo, I feel like they're pretty precautionary before the season starts just because they don't want people to have to reschedule those tickets. Like, we both know how many concerts there are in Toronto that aren't at the Scotiabank Arena. We know how many concerts are in, Buffalo, not at the KeyBank Center, but like for Vancouver to do that, that's kind of funny, yeah. That's a nice story there, and honestly, I think for Vancouver fans, you have to be feeling like your best going into this series against Edmonton, and the reason is like you know how to play against the Oilers, and although the Oilers kind of know how to play against the Canucks too, I don't know if you remember this, but first game of the season, I think it was a 7-0 win or 7-1 win for the Canucks.
Well, if looking back at the start of the season, I think I think they played back to back games against each other, right? That's how the season started out, and Vancouver beat them, and that's kind of what sparked this train of hope for all Vancouver fans because obviously Vancouver wasn't supposed to be in a situation that they are right now. I'll never forget the goal that Pedersen scored. I wish we could pull it up. I wish we had the rights to just toss it on the screen. Maybe I'll send it to you after. One of the nastiest goals I was actually watching that game. I don't know if it was the first or second game that he scored, but it kind of just set the tone early on. Like Vancouver is gonna be that team this year in the West.
Yeah, and the fact that Edmonton Oilers fans are pretty sick and tired of hearing about the regular season says a lot. While they had their average, call it average regular season for the Oilers, despite their slow start, like they don't want to hear it from Canucks fans when Canucks fans mention that dominance. And yeah, Pedersen had some big goals. He even had a big hit against the Oilers. I remember, like he was doing it all in the first couple of games, and so was Brock Besser, who I think he was in that Rocket race for the first like what 40 games of the season.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say up until like what the All-Star game, but he kind of kept that good play going for a while. Obviously, he really didn't get to that 50, 60 goal mark like most players did this year that were in the hunt for that Rocket Richard. But man, he's a goal scorer. Like you said, depth, those big names like Joshua and Connor Garland, even defense depth that I know they don't have a lot of flashy names, but some players that have really stepped up and played their role. You know what I mean? Like
Oh,
not every player has to be that first line defenseman, first line forward, and kind of pizzazz and shake up a game just like any star player can. But when you could go out there and you could be consistent, a player like Tyler Myers, for example, like I mentioned, you're gonna put yourself in that situation to go for a hunt in May and even maybe still be playing hockey in the middle of June.
exactly, exactly. And that's a guy, Tyler Myers, who deserves that playoff experience. He deserves to go on a run. He started his career obviously in Buffalo where there wasn't really any existence of playoffs, but it's just that piece in Vancouver that I think is shaping together. I don't think this team has much areas to improve in. And when you go back to Brock Besser there, I think now's that time where we're going to bring our rationale into why we think Vancouver's going to win. But if I don't know if you'll believe this, Sense, but Besser had one less goal than Leon Draisaitl did this season.
That's crazy.
And so if you even and I'm not trying to say that going into this series you're gonna consider them the same threat, but after a strong first round from Besser and a strong first round from Draisaitl, I don't see um an advantage for that Oilers offense, whether or not McDavid or Draisaitl are scoring every game. We've talked about it before with the LA series. Um, I was pretty confident that the Oilers would cakewalk the Kings, and that's a story for another day. Just because I don't think the Kings are a legit team, but I truly think that when you match lines and when you play four lines in a game and for a seven, I don't know. I can see this series going the distance, but. I just think the Canucks are going to have the edge, and I really it's nice to see a nice goalie story from Silovs there. What do you think of that?
I mean, the discussion of Silovs and how well he's been playing the last couple games is just a compliment to not only, his play, but also his head. How do we want to say, like his mental per
Yeah,
se? Imagine being a rookie coming in, thrown in as the third option. Like that first game of the playoffs, dude, he probably wasn't even thinking that he'd have any action out of nowhere. He's not only needed, but he's he's a desired goalie for Vancouver fans. Like they want him to play, they want him to keep going, and why not? He obviously gets that shutout in that 1-0 win against the Predators in Game 6. They hold them off, advance to the second round. And a discussion that I was having with a buddy, and we were chatting a little bit because it's not something you see all the time, but when injuries happen, the discussion's always brought up. So with Silovs taking this net, winning a couple games, taking his team to the second round, obviously he hasn't been the standout goalie of the playoffs that has really won them the games. But dude, he hasn't lost them the games. And when you're in the playoffs, that all that matters. My question to you, Eric, and I want to go a little bit back and forth about this. If
Yeah.
Demko shows up game one, shows up to the rink, ready to go, 100% healthy, wants his net back, if you're Vancouver management, is it crazy to say to Demko that he's got to sit out? You're going to tell your Vezina candidate goaltender that, hey, dude, this rookie just took us to the second round. You got to wait because it's for right now, it's his net until he loses it. What do you think about that?
No, that'd be crazy, yeah. And like that's I'm gonna be I guess we'll have a little disagreement there. It would be crazy, and it's just because there hasn't been enough playoffs yet. It's only the second round. If it was like, you know, conference finals slash Stanley Cup finals and Silovs, had played 6+ games, like I think you can make a case there. But I think because Demko's only been hurt for I want to say like 30 days max, like he was playing like a month ago. He can't be that rusty, you know what I mean?
No, I agree. I mean, less than 30 days for sure because he was only, I think he got hurt in game three, was it? Or maybe even game two. Because
Uh,
didn't DeSmith come in? Then DeSmith got hurt, I believe.
I'm trying to think. Yeah, well, the Smith got hurt, but yeah, Demko. I don't think Demko played game one. He wasn't ready for game one.
I think he did, dude. We might have to double check. I don't know if you want to do
Yeah.
a little checkup on your phone or something like that just to make sure. But for me, man, I just think that for right now, Silovs is a starter. It might not sound like it. It might be a tough decision. You are right. I'll agree. Let's say call it they're in the conference final, round three, and Demko, let's call it in game three, game four, says, okay, I'm ready to go. I'd be pretty up in arms to say that it would be his net. I don't think that would happen. I think Silovs would really edge him out just because of how well he has been playing. Obviously, we're talking in a theoretical world where the Canucks have already beaten the Oilers and they're already on to game two, three, four, whatever it might be against their opponent, Avalanche or Dallas Stars. But for right now, me personally, man, I just think the way Silovs has been playing, it's his net, and until he loses it, that he's playing, man.
Yeah, so I checked two things for you while you're saying that, and I do agree. I can agree with your saying he's playing well. A shutouts a shutout at the end of the day, and it says a lot, and it kind of brings the team together, right? But the first thing I'll mention is Demko is out until at least game five. That was just released 19 minutes ago, so I'm glad we have that info.
Oh
Um,
wow.
Obviously, so I was staying ready. But to your point, Demko was hurt in game one. I think I was kind of just mixing in the end of season injury he had where so I guess that's two injuries. I think they were both lower body, but I'm glad he's at least recovering and we have some sort of a date in mind, you know?
Well, yeah, like you said, I mean, I didn't even know. I didn't. It must have came out right once we recorded the podcast, basically. But I mean, now we kind of have our answer. Let's call it. It's game five, and let's say I don't know. Vancouver is up 3-1 in the series, and what you'd be headed back to Edmonton to play that game.
I mean, game five. Yeah, yeah. No, it'd be home ice for Vancouver. I think they have the home ice, so the home ice game five for Vancouver.
Yeah, so let's say you're up 3-1. Series is on the line. You can win it in game five. Demko's ready to go. Are you going to tell Silovs that he can't play, even though he just won three games in this series? That's where I think the better discussion could be found.
Yes, and that's where we get invested in Silovs. That's where you stay invested in him, and you're that's when he's your guy. You're totally into him, and you're at the end of the day, you got to be rooting for him if you're Demko and you're up in the series, or if you're down in the series. I'm not gonna say down, not root for him if you're down, but yeah, the goal would be not prolong the recovery, but if you were to take Edmonton to 6 or 7, it gives that extra week, call it, for Demko to maybe be healthy for the next series. That being said, you have to win. In terms of any more rationale we have for this pick, I truly think the depth wins up front for Vancouver. I'm not going to act like the star players don't lean towards Edmonton, but it's not like it's far off. McDavid and Draisaitl together are not like superbly above a Pedersen and JT Miller combo, and it might sound crazy, but there's no reason to say it when you have a good Canucks team there that's shown up and been good.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely respect the opinion. I'll disagree to say that that little combo that they have is similar to McDavid and Draisaitl. I mean, The way that McDavid plays, we all know he's the greatest player in the world. It's You'd have to be naive to say otherwise. He's almost worth an entire power play, what he brings to a team. So I'll give him his flowers in that aspect. But like you said, star power doesn't always win you a playoff run. You have to have depth. You need to have that third line, that fourth line going. You know, Edmonton's good. Stuart Skinner's playing well. Their defense is good. Their power play is good. And obviously, they have the best player in the entire league. But just the way the storyline, home ice advantage, Stilov's playing well, having that depth, the conversation kind of blurts out to yourself that Vancouver has a really good chance, a lot better chance than people think in this
Yeah.
series against the Oilers.
Yeah, and I guess just as a bit of a last statement, so people know we're on the same page. We're taking Vancouver as an underdog. It doesn't mean that we're going to act like they have the series and they're going to easily beat the Oilers. It's not going to happen. But we do think they can kind of come as underdogs and win this series. So I guess that leads us into our next series we can talk about. And this isn't really a bit of an underdog story, but Dallas versus Colorado. I don't think you can really even call either of them an underdog. What do you think?
It's like the last series where Dallas played against Vegas. Neither of them are underdogs. Feels like a pick 'em. Obviously, home ice advantage could be the end all be all story. We saw Dallas have home ice advantage in that series they just played against Vegas and ultimately winning that.
Yeah.
Was that the key factor? Was it the difference? I mean, you tell me 2-1 game, I believe. Game came down right down to the wire. Fans were absolutely buzzing in there. A great series nonetheless, sorry. Moving on, and hey, they have a big opponent, former Stanley Cup champion, Colorado Avalanche, just 2 seasons prior. Dallas still looks strong, man. Just in general, there's a lot of strong teams in this playoffs.
Yeah. Oh, it's crazy. The talent too, like is so spread out. You can look at a team like Colorado and you instantly think of a D forward combo in McKinnon and McCarr. But when you look at Dallas, some people might go right to Ottinger and that before they even mention a player. And it's like it's crazy because a lot of the guys that are thriving are these young guys, and it's like it's amazing to see, right? Like we're seeing records being broken, not even in the playoffs, but I'm sure you followed that U18 tournament where Canada took a nice win, and you're just seeing so many records broken, so young guys just dominating. You know what I mean?
Yeah, seriously, I didn't get to catch too much of the tournament just being on vacation. I heard a little bit about it. But like you said, pure domination in hockey is just fun to watch. Watching players that can just really take over a game is just absolutely insane and is what makes the game the best it could be.
Yeah, yeah. And so moving on to the East, since we haven't really talked about it, it's hard to talk about a series that's already begun, but Bruins, Florida, we've chatted about it this morning and on our I was on my way to work and you were doing a bunch of card stuff this morning. So we've been busy mornings. We talked about the Bruins obviously with a 5-1 dominating win, even though there was an empty net goal there to kind of make it seem larger than it was. I don't know what your key takeaway is, but having to win one on the road was crucial for the Bruins, whether or not game two is that goes their way or not.
Yeah, it was crucial for sure. I mean, obviously, people have said that the Bruins aren't the favorites in this series, and sports gambling, the sports book can agree with that. Obviously, we like to stay away from conversations like that to back up a statement. But I mean, it's evident. The Florida Panthers are deeper. They got that experience just going to the finals last year. But the Bruins are hot. They're playing well. Swayman's hot. I can't believe Allmark has just took a step back, accepting the backup goalie role. But that's what has made this team so good. I
Yeah.
think ultimately goaltending will be the story of the series. Like I said it yesterday. You didn't really agree, but Bobrovsky played well in that first period. He
Yeah.
was swimming almost like Samsonov, and he was just all over the net playing well. If Swayman can keep this up, though, I genuinely believe that the Bruins can not only beat the Panthers, but can go out and sweep the Florida Panthers and advance to the Eastern Conference Finals.
Dang, dang. I love to hear that. I love to hear the confidence in your voice there because I'm confident after watching that game too. And seeing my boy Justin Brazeau score his first playoff goal. I've received a bit of hate just for liking the guy, but it's just obviously a guy like him has a great story and brings so much grit. We this is the future of the Bruins having a gritty core, like whether we want to accept it or not. Frederick's going to be there for years. Brazeau should be there for years. Even a guy like Geeky brings a tad of grit with his skill, and like we're seeing that era of the Bruins where there isn't much skill in the lineup, like outside of Pasternak's hands. You know what I mean? Like a guy like Low Ryan McAvoy are their true talent is in their skating abilities. You know what I mean?
No, I feel that. I know you think that maybe the Bruins haven't always had that grip, but I mean, even just growing up, I've always viewed the Bruins to be a team where, not, or sorry, talent, you meant to say. But yeah, not as much talent, more grit, and they're just kind of chugging along with that playing style. And that's what's worked out in years past. It's pretty much what worked out for them last year. And it's working out this year, man. And not only are they getting good goaltending, but they're getting some of the best top class goaltending in all of the NHL out of Swayman right now. He killed the Leafs, killed them.
Oh yeah, I know. Hey, the .950 is something incredible, just a stat alone. But yeah, another series where to bank off your point there, home ice was you can say the difference or a difference, but Biz Nasty said it on the pod on Spit and Chicklets the other day. Home ice was there, and that's pretty much as easy as home ice advantage can look. You know what I mean in the game seven.
Yeah, seriously.
So I guess that leads us into our last series, and then we can kind of just do our predictions of how many games these series will go. But Canes are down 1-0 to the Rangers. This is a must win tonight against I believe it's tonight against in a game two where they're on the road still. Can you see this series going the distance?
I could see a world where the series goes distance, but I don't know. Ultimately, I think the Rangers are one of the strongest teams in the playoffs too. We've said it so many times that this is one of the best playoffs that we've seen in a couple years. The Canes are good. I want to say I could see this game. I could see the Rangers taking this in six.
All
That
right.
would be my prediction. I don't know if the Canes will be able to push a game seven. We'll see.
Yeah.
That's where I'm going to go with this, though.
All right. I can I mean the I can see obviously 6 games. I'd love to know a stat where is a 6 game series the most common, outcome, or is it the most common outcome? Because I don't think a series of sevens the most common, and I don't think a series of four is. It's got to be 5 or 6, right? Like for it
Yeah, for sure.
most popular. It's an interesting thing to think about, but obviously I've said it a few times. I got to keep going with the Canes. They're my cup pick. I would have the Canes in 6 right now. I don't know exactly what my bracket says. It says either 6 or 7. Um, but anyways, going on to our Bruins Florida series. That's where I don't. That's where my prediction gets tough. I don't know what I can. I don't know if I want to follow my bracket or follow my heart in terms of what I say on the podcast. I don't know if you're in that boat too, Stance.
I mean, like I said, I think I could see a world where the Bruins sweep Florida. If I'm going to predict it, I'm probably going to say that Florida takes this series in 6 games. I know it's tough to really put that out there, even though my heart wants to say the Bruins are going to take it. Florida's a good team, man. They're deep. They have good players. Kachuk's still playing well, maybe not to the caliber that he was last year, but they have a top class goaltender, top class defense, depth. They were just there last year. Maybe their gas could kind of run out. We'll see. All I know is the Bruins are in this playoff. They're looking for revenge after last season. And dude, they really took it to Florida in game one. Seriously.
Oh yeah. No, seriously, it's awesome. And I mean the Carlos story is something that I was amazed by. Like talk about the best 24 hours of um you've had in a long time. I don't want to say of your life, but your wife has a baby and then you score a goal that night, like, and you win, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, congrats to Carlo for for his wife giving birth just, what was it, 2 nights ago, I think, or was it last night?
I guess it was yesterday morning, so it would have been the Monday morning, right?
Yeah. And shout out to Elliot Friedman, too, because I was watching the broadcast and he actually brought it up pretty much 5 minutes in just for the 7 minute on there before the puck was dropped. Kind of forgot about it. And then I believe when he scored, they gave her a little bit of a shout out. I got to go back and rewatch the goal, but I even saw NHL posted something, and it's just an awesome sight to see, man.
Yeah, seriously. So anyways, I'm gonna go Boston in 7, and that's again, this is my prediction after game one. I'm not gonna say that was my prediction before. What can you do, right? I didn't we didn't record a few days ago just because it wasn't scheduled. But those are, I guess, our East predictions. And then in the West, I'm rolling with Dallas. I'm gonna go Dallas in 5 against Colorado.
Oh, okay, okay. Yeah, I'm gonna go Colorado in 7. That's gonna be
Colorado.
my pick.
Alrighty, alrighty. And then back to that other series on the other side. What are your thoughts on the other series in the West?
I'll say. So what are we missing here? I'm missing Edmonton and Vancouver. Is that the only one I'm
Yeah, yeah.
missing? I'd say that Vancouver's gonna take this series in 6 games. That's gonna be my pick.
Okay, I'm gonna go with Vancouver in 7. Like we said, we are taking the Canucks. I'm glad we could kind of agree on that. That's kind of our headline for today. But not only do we want to hear what our viewers think, we want to hear some rationale behind it. I told you a little sense. I've been making a little document about the Leafs, and I want to release some sort of even like a blog with my thoughts on it. It's going to be a long read, call it a 10-minute read or a 10-minute video here that maybe I just post on the page of me talking about it. But something like that where you don't just give an overview or a summary of what happened, but rationalize each decision and not just why it happened, but how it's impacting kind of the 2025 season that we're going to see upcoming, right?
Yeah, man, it's gonna be a big video. You're talking about it last night at hockey, dude. I'm hyped for it. It was a pretty good pod today. Definitely looking forward to some more playoff hockey. And yeah, NHL draft lottery, I believe, is tonight. So we'll see where Macklin Celebrini ends up.
Oh, we need a Sharks. I'm going Sharks here. I'm hoping they get the with those best odds. I'm just hoping it's nice and simple there.
I don't know. Give me Chicago. I'd love to see a little Macklin Celebrini and Connor Bedard action. Anyways, but from the Invest in Hockey podcast, my name's Anthony Santini. He is Eric Wilson. Cheers for joining us, and we're looking forward to a great playoff series matchup coming up this week between Oilers, Canucks, Vancouver, all these teams in the West, the East. Dude, we are dialed right now. Let's go.
We're invested. Let's go. Have a good one, buddy.
Cheers.